What my opponent did shocked me, and I still don't know what I did wrong. This is round 6 of the Sacramento Championship, the last round, and I am half a point ahead of the entire field. So if I draw, I guarantee at least tying for first, and if I win, I automatically get clear first place. There's at least 2 other boards. The next 2 boards, if they win and I draw or lose, then they could also get first place. So this is a very pivotal game. Can I win? I'm the top seed of this tournament, and this is the under 2000 section, and my rating is 2017, but my published rating is 1996, so I was able to squeeze into the section, and I'm just trying to take everyone's money. You know, I'm meeting them in the alleyway, and there's no cops around. That's my hope. I'm playing Zhao Chen, and he is by far the highest rated opponent I've played. I've played multiple 1600s. I played, I think 2 1700s, maybe just 1. So if anyone's going to beat me, it's going to be this guy. The time control is game in 90 plus 30 seconds per move, and this is a no engine recap until the very end of this video. I play d6. I've been playing the Philidor a lot. I start with the perk move order, so d6, knight f6, and then e5. Because I haven't committed my cards yet. Why do I do this? Because my opponents don't know if I'm going to go for the g6 setup yet, and this will be a perk, or transpose to the Philidor, which would be e5. My opponents don't know that yet, which is perfect, because that means, that's a little bit more that they have to contend with. Like, they don't know what I'm going to do. My opponent plays knight c3, and he goes into my favorite variation of the Philidor, where white takes on e5 and trades queens. I have an impeccable record with this opening, with this variation, because white always misplays it, as I felt Zhao Shan also did. I'm 5.5 out of 6 with this variation, and the only time I did not win was against a FIDE master, legend of Pennsylvania chess, Carl DeMelt. He's the only person I couldn't beat, but I've played, an average rating of 1800 in this variation, and I've scored 5.5 out of 6. So already out of the opening, I was giddy. I was giddy with happiness. I was like, I got this in the bag, because everyone plays the exact same thing. They go bishop g5. I go bishop e7, defending my knight, preventing the doubling of pawns. They castle. I go knight bd7, and they play knight f3, attacking the pawn because my knight is pinned. Sometimes they go bishop c4 first before throwing a knight f3, or they go knight f3 immediately. It doesn't matter. This move order, after knight f3, I go knight g4 here, threatening a fork. And also defending my e5 pawn, and also our bishops see each other. So then he takes my bishop, I take back, and now he goes rook d2. He could have also gone knight d5 check as well. That would have forced my king back to defend the c7 pawn. But tomato, it's all the same. Rook d2, I go c6 now, so now knight d5 is not possible. Now he goes h3, I go knight h6, and he goes bishop c4. And I know, he really doesn't have to commit his bishop on c4, because now it's going to actually help me push my queenside pawns. And here, I probably should just play b5 right now. Genuinely, I probably should just play b5, because I start with f6, and then play b5 later. So it does give him the opportunity to play a4 if he wants to. I'm not sure if he should. That's good. I mean, I don't see why it would be bad. Then I could probably play, knight b6 and knight f7, knight d6, and just continue developing. That's probably what I would do. Maybe I'll play knight c5 and bishop e6, and just have a solid game. That's all possible. But I feel like I probably should have started out with b5 to not give him the opportunity to play a4 and, stop my queenside expansion. He plays rook hd1, doubling up on the c file, and now I play b5. He moves his bishop back, and now I play knight c5. I've had so many games like this. However, this move order is slightly different. I do have to contend with what happens if he plays rook d6. And what I was planning, if he did play rook d6, I was attacking my c6 pawn. I was gonna play bishop d7, guarding my c6 pawn. Then play rook h d8 to guard my bishop, freeing my knight, and then play at some point either play a4, a5, a4, and then take, or whatever, and then play knight f6. After this bishop no longer sees the f7 square. That was kind of my plan, and then I would have slowly expanded. So even though rook d6 looks really active, I don't think it amounts to anything. More importantly, though, I am planning to go b4 and then taking the pawn on e4. So he has to think about like whether or not he wants to sacrifice this pawn on e4, and he thinks for a while, like 15 minutes at least, to play rook e2. This was a huge concession because White is trying to claim that they were better because they had control of the d file and they were more developed. But now they no longer get control of the d file, and now they're just this rook is playing passive defense. And I'm like, oh man, I've had so many games like this. I play a5. I think I'll actually link my game against Matthew Rebes because this game reminded me of that game a lot. But anyways, I play a5. Starting to chop the bishop with a4. He goes a3. I chop, go bishop e6. And I know this position, black should be slightly better. And I've been playing instantly. Like I have like 92 minutes on the clock. And my opponent has like 60. And so I've been playing instantly because I played this opening so many times, basically. That's what it feels like. King c2, and I'm like, okay, a4. Let's go. So now chop, and now bishop b3 check would be a skewer. I'm starting to win the rook right now. He goes back, I go bishop b3 anyways. He goes up, and now I go knight f7. So now, I did my job. I opened things up a little bit on the queen side. I'm up on time, up half an hour on the clock. So now I'm going to reroute my knight. It went from g8 to f6 to g4 to h6 to f7, and now it's going to go to d6 and c4. So now I'm really going to activate it, or d8, e6, and c5. That's also possible. And his rooks are like stumbling over each other. These are not good rooks here, and my king is doing a great job stopping the infiltration of one rook. Oftentimes in an endgame like this, you want to trade one pair of rooks, but not two. But in this case, his rooks are stumbling over each other, so I decided not to play rook hd8. I thought rerouting my knight was better. I should prioritize that first. Here goes rook e1, though. So if you look at his moves, like he's played, what progress has he made? He's played, rook d2, then rook e2, then he played rook dd2, and now rook e1. So this rook has transferred from a1 to d1 to d2 to e1 to e2 to e1. Like this rook has been doing the chicken dance, and it is not very impressive at it, to be honest. But what do I have to show for it? If he gets really lazy, just goes like g4, or let's go knight d6, g4, knight c4, suddenly, I'm really getting in here. It's going to be very difficult to defend this position. Rook d3, for example, I could perhaps go rook hd8. He cannot double up if he trades. Then now there's really nothing he can do. He can't go knight d2 because I control that square too much. So he's really stuck in this position. He's really, really stuck. And maybe I'll go rook d3 to apply pressure on the knights and the pawn on h3. So if he's not careful, he's going to get a losing position very, very quickly. But the thing is, he is careful, though. He plays... Firstly, let me back up. One of my ideas is go knight d6, but another idea is go knight d8 to go to e6. Those are both valid ideas. Going knight d6 was my original plan, but then I realized his idea is to go rook de2, and after knight c4, meet it with knight d2. And I was like, is this really good here? What is this going to even amount to? If I take, he takes rook hd1, he has an option here. Does he go rook e2 or does he trade? Let's say he trades. If he trades, I'm like, wait a second. Hold the phone. Do I have enough to win this game? And the answer is, I don't think so. I don't think I have enough to win this game. My bishop does a good job defending this pawn, and my pawn blocks his knight's forward momentum. And, so how is he going to get active in this game? I guess he could maybe play knight e2 and maybe try to go for some f4 stuff. I'm not really sure what he would even try to do here. And my position is very, very solid, but I don't really care about my position being very solid. I want to win this game. And I was like, wait a second, this is not winnable, and he's gonna have more fun on the dark squares. If he can get his knight to c5, he's gonna be a very happy camper. Yeah, sorry if I sound a bit sick. It's because I am. I got sick at the end of the trip. So knight e2, it was not played because none of this was played. So maybe I should have just went for knight d6, knight c4, and accepted that it's a very solid position and most likely a draw. But I was like, nay, I'm playing with the horse, and nay, I'm gonna go knight d8. And after rook d3, so that's his other option, I'm going to go knight e6. So now he goes knight d2. And I'll be honest, I did miss the fact that knight f3, and I thought knight f4 was going to be very powerful because his rook ran out of squares. Like when I was calculating here, I was like, okay, knight e6, and then knight f4 is a huge threat after knight d2 because he can't go here because knight g2 is a fork of his rooks, and then my king blocks any of the infiltration squares. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just winning here. But then after he played knight d2, I was like, oh yeah, like rook g3, like knight f4, rook g3, counter attacking my g pawn. And I was like, yeah, this doesn't really amount to anything here. Now I have g6, then he can chop. And now he has an outside passed pawn. My pawn is doing a good job of restricting my opponent's king, but I'm not sure if it's anything to write home about. Because that pawn could be a weakness on b3. That's a knight e6. He plays knight d2. Now I play knight c5 here, guarding my bishop, and he just goes rook g3, targeting my g7 pawn. I go g6, and I thought I was supposed to win this game, like legitimately. Like I was like, wait a second, like when he went like rook d2, rook dd2, rook e1, and then rook d3, I was like, there's no freaking way he's gonna hold. There's no freaking way. But then I was like, wait a second, hold up, his ideas worked out completely fine, and I was just like, wait a second, like. Why? I'm not winning this game at all. He's gonna bring his rook back, and he's gonna have a defensive setup. And I was like, okay, well, rook d4. I'm eyeing the e4 pawn. I'm defending the b4 pawn. If you go knight takes a4 to try to win a pawn by sacrificing knight and then winning my knight, I have knight check, and then I can take your knight. So that's very good. You might have moves like rook d1 in this case, although I don't think so actually, now that I think out loud, because it's check, and this is actually really close. Oh, I thought it was closer to checkmate than it was. I guess I just take this pawn. Worst case scenario, I can always just like take this pawn. So that doesn't work. So after rook d4, he goes rook e2, and now I double up. So he's doubled up on the e file, I'm doubled up on the d file, and maybe there are some ideas. Like for example, let's say like g4 or g3, I can give a check, and if he takes, I can take, and then I can give a checkmate on checkmate his king on a2. But he can also go rook c2, and then there's check here, and I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Like, am I really winning anything in this position? Like, I don't really know. I guess this is a forced draw. Oh, wait, no, it's not a forced draw because I was going to say it's forced draw because of check here and check, but then he can sacrifice his rook to win my rook, and now he's just up a rook, and he'll win the game. So that's not very good. So yeah, so I rook sacrifice seems tempting, but I don't think it's actually that good at all. Check here. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm accomplishing, but it's an idea. He goes king a2 though, so now if I do nothing like h5, then knight takes h4 is an actual threat because there is no oh wait, no, this is a check. No. Oh, other rook to e2. Yeah, that must be the response. Hold up. I gotta check my game annotations. Alright, I found my score sheet. And according to my score sheet, move 29. Yes, move 29 was king a2. So I inputted this game from memory. So I got move 29 wrong. And then after rook e5, king a2, knight c5. Yes, because if I doubled up now, this idea of knight takes a4 actually works because there is no check. There is no a check on d2. So that's why after king a2, I dropped my knight back to c5. And then he played f3, solidifying his center. Oh, no, he didn't. Let's say he just played rook 1e2 for now. Rook a d8, rook c2, rook c4, f3. So now he solidified his pawn on e4. He's activating his rook with my rook. I do have to be a little bit careful here. For example, rook d2 looks tempting here, infiltrating, but he actually has this tactic, knight d5 check. Very tricky tactic here because now it disconnects my rooks from seeing each other. Very common tactic here. So if this happened, that would be pretty devastating for my position. Although admittedly, this actually doesn't look that bad because I could take on e4 and I'm attacking his rook, and then his rook infiltrates, which looks very bad for me. I wish I could push d4 right now, but I guess I can't. Yeah, I guess I can't. Yeah, this is not very good for me. So I play rook c4, and now if you try to do the same check, I can take, and my pawn defends my rook. That's why that tactic doesn't work. Then he goes f3, and then I double up. Actually, after f3, I don't double up yet. I go king e6 first, avoiding any sort of check nonsense. So now if knight d5, if I do take, that would be a mistake because now he could take, check, and actually go rook d2 here. Although, I guess I do have this move. So maybe it's not a mistake. I thought it was a mistake, but it's not a mistake. I thought he could win my rook on d8, but apparently he can't. Okay, so I could still take on d5 if he did. I was going to take his rook on c2, which is also should be winning. But anyways, so I go king e6. And after knight d5, nope, that didn't happen. So I go king e6. He goes rook 3 e2, rook e e2. And now I double up on the 4th rank, which is kind of silly looking, but the idea is I'm just defending my rook on c4, and I've guarded my only weaknesses. My weakness on c6 is guarded by my rook on c4, and so is my weakness on a4. So even though I was applying pressure in the middle game, I decided to split my pawns like this. So I have a structural damage in this endgame, and so he could try to pick apart my weaknesses, but I'm able to defend everything pretty easily. And here he goes knight b1, trying to make something happen. I offered a draw at king e6 because getting me a draw guarantees me first place. Plus this position is pretty solid, so either he would have to do something crazy or I would have to do something crazy to make something happen. I offered a draw. He plays knight b1. I play knight c3, and it's really scary for him because what is he gonna do? Firstly, if he takes, I can just take, and now knight c1 is a threat. He's a huge threat. If you guard against this threat, I can give a check. And after king a1, I give another check. And this is a forced repetition at a bare minimum. If not, I'm playing for the win. I probably don't need to repeat here. I could probably just go rook c2 and then knight c1, knight d3. So if knight c3, I give a check here. Oh wait, yeah, knight d3 here. So if you take, I can take and win the pawn. And if you do not take, rook d1, then I can probably just go give a... Oh, that's actually a really nice resource. Oh, that's really annoying, actually. I want to go check, but then my knight's hanging after everything. Wow. Wow, and his knight guards his rook, so, okay. Anyways, I could try to play for a win. It would be tough, but I might be able to play for a win as well. So, after knight b3, he doesn't want to allow knight c1 at all, so he goes knight back. I can move my knight back. He moves his rook over. I move my knight forward. And if he goes rook, there's some traps here. If he goes rook fd2 here, and now all our rooks are staring at each other, I can go knight c1 check. Knight c1 check. If you move your rook, I can Oh wait, sorry, wrong way. But I can go knight e1, attacking your rook. And if you take my rook, I can take your rook with my pawn, and your rook is under threat. Your knight is under threat. If you go here, I can take, and if you take, I can push and promote. Although, is this really the best I can do? There's probably something better I can do here, right? Is there something better? I thought there might be something better here. I mean, maybe I could go knight takes b2. Knight takes b2 is interesting, at the very least. He could desperado, and then I could attack his rook. So that should be winning. So it takes, and if he takes me, then I can take him. And he could pin maybe. Yeah, pinning is probably good for him. But now I can try to win his pawns. So this should be a winning endgame for me. Anyways, I thought rook f2 would be a way for me to win the game. But instead of that, he just repeats. And I go knight c5, and I claim threefold repetition. So when you claim threefold repetition, you have to make the move and not press the clock. If you press the clock, you can't claim threefold repetition. So I made the move, paused the clock, I said I claim threefold repetition. When I claim a threefold repetition, it is a draw offer. Do you accept? And he does not accept. And so the tournament director comes over and we explain the situation. And then the tournament director, inputs the entire situation, the entire game onto his computer and confirmed that we did indeed repeat 3 times. So the first occurrence was this. Rook d4 was the first occurrence. Knight c5 was the second occurrence. Knight c5 again was a third occurrence. So threefold repetition, and with that, I clinched first place and I won the tournament. And on the next 2 boards, there was one draw, so they did not get first place. And then there was one board that did have a decisive result. This girl offered this young boy a draw. The boy declined, and then 2 moves later, the boy resigned because he got forked by a knight. Rook sacrificed, the knight takes f7 check, and winning a queen. Like, it was like, oh my gosh. So I would have gotten clear first place if that boy accepted the draw offer. Like, oh my goodness. But whatever. It is what it is. And I won the tournament, won $725 and got a trophy. So not a bad day in the world of chess. So with that being said, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna hit the game review, and I'll see you guys next one. Peace.